So top fighting. Top fighting is one of the most important things you need to do in Bedfight, as it determines who gets the pressure and who has to defend.
Yeah.
There's a few techniques to ensure you win top fights. Alright, so first of all, just W tapping. So how do you W tap? W tapping is pretty simple.
It's more
W
KB.
tapping happens when you let go of W in order to do more knockback, because a
Like
sprinted
that.
deals more knockback and it's sprint reset. You don't
Yeah.
have to W tap, just other methods such as S tapping, which we'll go into a bit of detail later. So W tapping, so for example, instance, when I don't W tap, as you can see, I basically did no knockback. But when I do W tap, there's a ton of knockback. So S tapping is another method of sprint resetting. You can either hold W and have S to stop your movement, like that. But I don't think it's a great method because that's basically the same as W tapping. What I would
W
rather
tapping
do
is
is
simpler.
instead let go of W and S in order to go backwards. This can be useful in certain scenarios. For example, S tapping can be used to counter hit select, and then it's just another method of sprint resetting, but sort of like um, you can use it in different scenarios.
Yeah. And S tapping can be useful later in like corners and stuff, but right now, whenever you're top fight, generally W tapping is gonna be easier and better working for you.
Okay, so strafing usually is really important in PvP, but in top fights, strafing isn't gonna be incredibly useful unless you have a large platform. For instance, in most top fights, they'll usually be like a 1 or 2 wide, as demonstrated here. So like they won't be crazy useful, but they still do help in reducing knockback, especially if you know how to position yourself with strafes. Instead of straight lining here, what I could do is strafe and look at him this way. Then in that case, that like since I have a bigger platform, he's gonna be hit backwards,
I'm gonna be hit
and then it's
backwards
gonna be
into
easier
the
to hit him
void.
off. And then you can switch angles mid-fight either, and then that's gonna help hit them off more as well.
Another useful thing for strafing is if, say, the other player hits me, then I can start strafing while clicking on them, and it will reduce my knockback whenever I'm fighting them.
Okay. Headshotting is a PvP method, which a lot of people use to get combos and gain an advantage in the hit sequence. What headshotting does is essentially if you let your opponent
You're
hit you
essentially going
first,
through
and
them
then you go down,
as well.
and then
Can be.
then you're gonna have low ground advantage since you'll be hitting the ground first. And since low ground is very helpful, as we'll explore this later, it's gonna be pretty helpful. So, alright, I'll hit select you. Shoulder hit select just means that you immediately let go of W, and then the moment they hit you, press W again, and then start hit selecting them basically. And what that's gonna do is give you a low ground advantage. For instance, in this clip, I short hit selected him. Long hit selecting is usually easier to do with high ping. It's a method used by high ping players. Alright,
So there's two different types of hit
you're gonna
select.
hit me first. You're gonna hit me first. You're gonna hit me first.
There's a short hit select and there's also a long hit select, and they're two very different things and useful in different
Shorter hit
sequences.
selects are usually used more in low pay, and they're just more consistent and more safer type of hit select. For instance, I'll hit select you.
Now that
Shorter
would
hit
be
select just means
kind of
that
like a
you
long.
immediately let go of W, and then the moment they hit you, press W again, and then start hit selecting them basically. And what that's gonna do is give you a low ground advantage.
That would be like a
Since in
short hit
this clip, I
select.
short hit selected him. Long
Yeah.
hit selecting is usually easier to do with high ping. It's a method used by high ping players.
But you can also take advantage of it on high ping players and long hit select them.
Yeah. Since we're both low ping, the demonstration is
It's hard to
pretty
demonstrate
long
it.
at best.
Yeah.
But essentially, you basically just wait a longer time. So it's like this will catch the opponent off guard, but don't do this consistently because this cannot be done consistently. Easy to counter.
Yeah.
Yeah. First hitting. Okay, hit selecting is not something you want to do constantly. You don't want to constantly hit select because that's going to make you very easy to counter because counter selecting exists, which we'll cover them later. Instead, what you usually want to do is you want to first hit and sometimes hit select to catch them off guard, but you can like vary this. And also you can also vary the degree of hit selects to be more unpredictable, to the base of PvPs to be unpredictable. Okay, so the art of first hitting is how do you first hit without getting hit selected? So if you're low pay, you can just rush into this. And then you usually won't get hit selected unless you mess up. or they do a good hit select on you. If you're high ping, then you're going to have to counter select every hit if you're first
Or
hitting.
you're going to have
But,
to take severe advantage of strafing on a wide platform if you're going to
but
be a high ping,
if you're
and
high
it's still
ping,
going to be hard.
when you're high ping, most of your hits will naturally be hit select if the opponent first hits as well. So in high ping, it really depends on the scenario. Okay, counter selecting is a method used to counter an opponent's hit select. This is the reason why you don't hit select every fight. So counter selecting, there's a few ways to do this. First of all is to jump resetting. Jump resetting, we'll explore this later, but it naturally counters hit selecting. That's one method. Another method to counter hit selecting is by S-tapping when the opponent hit selects. Another method to do this is delaying your hits. So this is probably the most effective method. It's the one I personally use. But when they hit select, you delay your hits the same time or even longer in order to either cancel out their advantage or even get an even bigger advantage. Try to hit select me. And I'm gonna delay my hits. As you can tell in this clip, Blador tried to hit select that, but I delayed my hits just enough to get an advantage over him. So
Now, in general, whether you're using one method or another, it's always helpful to obviously have high CPS. It's not necessary, but it is good to have.
what high CPS does is essentially the delay it takes for you to hit your opponent is going to be slower, so you're going to be able to get first hits better. So high CPS is obviously helpful, but as like low CPS isn't a massive hindrance, and you can still be good with low CPS. It's definitely possible.
So,
For instance, I used to click 60 FPS a lot, but obviously high CPS now. I've clicked like 18. That obviously helps.
and all of it's just being aware and timing your hits well. And so, whether it's high CPS or low CPS, if you can time it well, you're going to succeed in PvP. And predicting other players, what they're going to do, knowing how your opponent's going to move, is going to help you learn when to hit select, when to counter hit select, and when to W tap.
Okay, now mid trading. Mid trading is probably, in my opinion, the most strongest advanced mechanic that you will ever learn. What mid trading does is essentially, at its base, it's a hit select, but it's hit select mid trade. Mid trades are useful in a lot of scenarios, but there's two types of mid. Short mid trading happens when you just delay your hits very slightly in order to get an advantage. This doesn't directly result in a combo, but when this stacks up, especially in long fight, this can definitely give you an advantage. I wouldn't recommend short mid trading in scenarios um, outside of stacked fights or sumo fights or basic fights where you have to do a lot of hits in order to win the fight.
Yeah.
Second type is long mid trading. Long mid trading happens when you let them get an extra hit or even two extra hits. It's sort of like long hit selective, but this can either give you a huge advantage, but this is pretty risky, but either way, mid trade is a pretty safe as you always do. Another thing with mid trade is a very intuitive PvP mechanic, just like hit selecting, so it's not something that you master over time, but you can always get better at it. I'm gonna demonstrate short mid trades. Go.
Yeah. And that would be an example of a short mid trade.
That would be a short mid trade. Jump resetting is a method a lot of players use to reduce knockback you take. So basically, what you do when you jump reset is you just jump at the exact same time you get hit. This is
Just
really
like that.
beneficial because you take much less knockback. But I don't know if I get at mid trading. I mean, not very good at jump resetting, but yeah, it's fine.
Jump resetting kind of also depends on your timing again, like you said, right after you get hit. And if you if you time it wrong, then you're essentially just going to go flying exactly like that. So you have to have good timing with this.
Yeah. Okay, jump resetting in specific, jump resetting is a relatively safe method as long as you execute it correctly. And as long as you can be jumping, there shouldn't be much of a problem, but you should take note that jump resetting is a pretty counterable method, and there's lots of methods to counter it. For instance, one method is delaying their hits until they fall to the ground or until they're up in the air in order to get an advantage. Another method is mid-trading when they're jump resetting. This will give you a huge advantage, and in my opinion, the strongest method to countering jump resets.
Now
Alright,
for
thanks, he's
top
Patty.
fight and PvP, a phrase I heard recently is it's a lot like cooking, where you take all the different like PvP methods and you just combine them to make something that works for you. And so one example of this was a method that we created that where like if you're on a one block bridge or something, you're going to be going like that, and then you're going to look to the side, you're going to jump reset and hit select at the same time. Now there's so many different combinations and ways you can configure things that each one will change exactly how
The
you
most
play
important thing in Alpha is
and
being
make it better.
unpredictable. Every method in PvP, from mid trading to W, every method is counterable. And in order to make sure that your method is safe, you should always be unpredictable. And
Yeah.
also, another strong thing is predicting your opponents. Because that'll help, obviously, in
Yeah.
countering them.